Hey,
Hi, Kelly.
how are you?
Good to see you. I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
Good. All right. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get
Yeah,
started.
I feel like I need to make my go lower. I don't know how to work these.
Yeah, I can kind of see the
Oh,
how
there.
that.
It's a little better.
I'm gonna adjust my book stack here too.
I know I'm like using books, right?
It's the way to go. Okay. So hi everybody. I'm Polly Stewart. Thank you.
Hi, Latifah. My sister just
Oh,
joined.
good. I saw my sister-in-law a minute ago.
Oh.
Um, so thank you so much for joining us on the first episode of The Craft of Crime Fiction. This is my new interview series on Instagram Live where I talk to writers of all kinds of crime fiction, mysteries, thrillers, literary fiction with a crime element about how they do what they do. And tonight I'm so happy and thrilled to introduce as our first guest, author Kellye Garrett. Kellye is author of Like a Sister, which came out this month from Mulholland Books, and she has hers too. Great, because we're going to talk about that cover. She's also the author of Hollywood Homicide, which won the Agatha, Anthony, Lefty, and Ippy Awards for Best First Novel, and which I think I read in an afternoon. So much fun. And Hollywood Ending as well. And she serves on the board of Crime Writers of Color. I'm sorry, Sisters of Crime, and is one of the co-founders of Crime Writers of Color. And I just adored this novel. I just tore through it. It was such a great read, and I'm so excited to talk to you about it. So
Thank you. Yaz is here. Hi, Yasmin.
thanks for coming tonight. So I was wondering if we could start, if you could just describe the story a little bit for readers who haven't gotten a chance to pick it up yet.
For Like a Sister?
Yes.
So yeah, so basically, I got the idea from a daily news headline, and it said, pregnant former reality star found dead at 26 in Bronx with cocaine and no pants. And everyone's like, that's not a real headline, but if you've ever read the New York Daily News, you know it's a real headline. And so I was super fascinated with the idea. It felt like a book to me, but I couldn't figure out what how to write it because I had the series. Oh, should I use that for the jump off of another series? Should I make it like a PI novel? What should I do? And I was walking down the street one day and I said, oh, she was going to see her sister, her strange sister, and she never made it. So that's the story of Like a Sister. It's told from the point of view of Lena Scott. She hasn't spoken to her sister in 2 years. She doesn't know what's been going on with her, but she just knows that she was coming to see her at 5 a.m. and never made it. And she doesn't believe that it was just an overdose, even though that's what the cops believe. And so it kind of makes her kind of jump into the world. She doesn't want to be in the world of her family because she's also kind of estranged from her dad, who's like this hip hop mogul. You think about I don't know, like a Suge Knight or like a P. Diddy. So
Great. Great. I love the way you put those elements together because we've got the mystery, but then we also have this super interesting relationship, and both of them
family, yeah.
are right.
I think all books have to kind of operate on two different levels. You have to have, the different subplots, and I think you got to have the personal and the professional, and even though in this one, it's all personal because it's her sister, you can kind of view that murder as that professional. So
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. That makes sense. So I one of the things I think I saw online at some point, the first line of this book before I had a chance to read it, and I was just hooked from that. It's actually the first paragraph. So I found out my sister was back in New York from Instagram. I found out that she died from the New York Daily News. And I wondered if you could just tell me about writing those two lines and when in the process they came to you.
I think those were that was the first thing I wrote. And it's funny because I'm a very, 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 very slow writer, as my agent and editor will tell you, to their frustration. But once I had that idea, that first chapter flew out, it flew out of me. And so I had an hour at the bar that Alex Segura was doing, and I was like, oh, I need something new to do. I wrote it within a day. So that was the first line. It's so funny because a lot of people respond really strongly to that line. And I don't think, sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I write something and I'm like, oh, that's a line. And I did not. I was just I didn't think it was that great of a line. It was just, very much that's what's going on. It just starts off that's really what she found out. So.
Well, to me, it's the stuff that comes out so naturally like that. It really usually it's a good tell for a writer, right? That you're really onto something when it comes that easily. And to me, again, it just says so much about the relationship between Lena and Desiree because
Yeah.
we know that there's this distance between them, right? If she's
Yeah.
on Instagram, yeah.
It's
So,
just off. Yeah.
sorry.
What's it?
Oh, tell me more about how the character of Lena developed.
I think once I knew she was the estranged sister, I think it kind of made it really easy. Like, why are they estranged? I have sisters. I have two sisters. My mother has three sisters. My grandmother had four sisters. So I know sister relationships. Um, and I think like the acknowledgments of my book is to my sisters, and it says, I love you even when I hate you, and I know the feeling's mutual. And I think if you have sisters, you're like, yeah, I totally understand that. So I kind of understood that. And then I wasn't really sure. I just knew that it was going to be like a screwed up family, and I wasn't really sure who the family was going to be. I just knew the dad was going to be of note. And I decided to do music just because I've worked in music before. Like I was a hip hop journalist, and I used to work for a media company. So I worked in music before, so I kind of understood that world. And I've always been kind of fascinated with people's fascination with celebrity, and so I'm always kind of having that type of element in all my books. So
That's true. Yeah, even though this book isn't set in Hollywood, it's got that commonality with your other work that
right,
the
right.
which kind of takes us into our next question. I wanted to talk to you about this theme of Instagram and social media in the book. I noticed on your email, one of your side offs says extroverted introvert. And obviously, social media isn't always easy for writers, but
Mhm.
you seem very comfortable on there. So I wonder what your relationship is with social media.
I mean, I always tell writers to do what you enjoy. Like I like to watch TikToks, but I just don't think I would do well in the TikTok world of, having to kind of create these cute, funny, like well edited videos. Like I just am not that's not my strong point. But I feel very comfortable on Twitter, and I like interacting with people on Twitter, and I love the fact that I can really easily, I love boosting other authors, and I can easily, it's like how literally, like I will retweet anything because it's like literally you click a button and you retweet. So I don't see like the big deal of retweeting people, like I'm always gonna retweet people I know, people I don't know who's, I want to support. Um, Instagram, I'm trying to figure it out. It's funny because the book is very much about Instagram, and I don't think I'm that great at Instagram. I love looking at Instagram, but I don't have like this really great curated like Instagram page, So I think Twitter is my comfort zone, as an author, in terms of me as an author. Me as a person, I love Instagram as just to look at stuff. I love looking at gossip pages and things like that. But like I that's just not. I'm not gonna be like doing curated pictures as much as I love to like have pretty pictures. I don't think I could do that. So you have to find what you're comfortable with. So
Well, in a way, the novel has a lot to do with lurking because, Lena, she doesn't even follow her sister because she doesn't want Desiree to see that she follows.
exactly, but she knows everything she's done, and like I think Instagram is so great for stalking. I don't mean
Yeah.
other people admit that, but I will admit it. Like it's always great when you think of like a random person, you're like, I wonder what they're up to. Let me just Google it, and like someone you haven't thought about or talked to in years. Like, oh, I should just Google them and see what they're doing. So,
Why not? Um, and so that kind of, there are a lot of Desiree's working as an influencer, and I was wondering if that was, was that something?
working in quotes.
That's her job. Was that something you researched, or just something you kind of enjoy following online anyway?
I'm just fascinated with that influencer world of like people whose career it is to take pretty pictures. And I remember like I've watched a couple of reality shows where I guess I don't watch the Kardashians, but I feel like they're like, the ultimate influencer, where it's just like take a picture with the like, I don't know, like some tummy, they call it what, tummy tea, like tummy tea, and you can get all this money. I was just fascinated with that idea in that world. So hi, Steph. And I see Barbara too.
So were there any real life models for, I mean, you said you were, watching the Kardashians, and you mentioned Suge Knight and P. Diddy for Mel, but.
I mean, I think it's just like it was like a mix for when it comes to Mel, it was just like a mix of because I'm like I'm in my 40s, so like I grew up in hip hop in the 90s, and I totally understand. Like I'm fascinated with the idea. If you think about the 90s, like hip hop was like public enemy number one for like America, right? And then now we literally have like Dr. Dre's doing the Super Bowl, which is like the ultimate show you can possibly do, and you kind of like see how mainstream it's become, and I'm so fascinated with that, to have watched this world, like this journey, like these guys are now like these like legit businessmen, and so I was kind of just fascinated with that. So that's where Mel came from, and then yeah, Lena, I think she's obviously, I think the most like me, or just because it's her first person narrative where she's, really funny, hysterical, and
I thought so.
like she's sarcastic, and I wasn't intending for it to be a funny book because it's more serious in the series, but it definitely still has humor in it just because I'm like really sarcastic. I don't take life, I rather laugh than cry, and so I think that I have that with Lena. So
Well, and it seems like she's using humor as a defense mechanism too. There's been so much hurt in her life, and she's trying to deal with it in that way. So
yeah.
works for the character. Another thing I loved in here was the setting. We have this contrast between the Bronx, and Lena continues living in the Bronx, even though her father and her sister have lived in Manhattan. So we have all these scenes of her like traveling across the city and what the different boroughs mean to her. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you were trying to do there.
I like when there's real. When I was a teenager, I'm from New Jersey, and so I discovered Harlan Coben. I discovered Valerie Wilson. And they're two mystery writers who live in New Jersey, and they write about New Jersey. And I just love when I recognized places in a book. And so that's why if even my Hollywood people think I live in LA still because of my Hollywood books, because they're so based in LA, like actual real locations. And so I just like writing real locations in the book, and I think when people think of New York City, they often think of Manhattan. They think it's interchangeable, but New York City is 5 boroughs, and I think maybe they might think of Brooklyn too, but like there's Queens and there's the Bronx, there's Staten Island, like there's so many different boroughs. I kind of wanted to kind of address that a little bit. Obviously the it's not based on the woman who died in the headline, but the headline is the Bronx, and I was fascinated with that idea of how she was partying in downtown Manhattan and she ended up dead in the Bronx. So I think that kind of to me made it really natural to be like, oh, these two different worlds. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And they each come to mean so much in terms of sort of Lena's feelings about race and her feelings about her family. And I just feel like that gives so much depth to the story.
yeah.
Um,
Class. There's a lot of class too. So
yeah. I love the title, and titles are so hard for so many writers. I was wondering, was this one where you like sat down immediately and you were like, this is what it's called, or did it come to you?
I was either going to be like a sister or just like a sister. And Alex Zucker is a really good friend of mine. I was like asking him, I'm like, which one? Yeah, exactly. 5 boroughs, right? Exactly. I'm looking at the comments. Like I was just like, okay, which one should it be? Just like a sister, like a sister. And Alex was like, it should be like a sister. So and it's funny because usually when you sell a book, it you sell it with a title, and then you have to pretty much get the title approved by a whole team of people. It's not just your editor has to like it, and then like the sales and marketing, everyone has to like it. And so I was actually really surprised that it made it through to the final, to this actually on a book cover. Because my first book, I had like 3 or 4 titles before it actually got to the Hollywood Humps, which is not my title.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I had it was originally IOU.
Huh.
That she's in debt. And I literally, like, if you read my first book, there's a very strong acronym theme in that book, and the reason why is because it was supposed to be called IOU,
Oh.
and then it got changed. My agent hated that title. I still think it's a cute.
I like
She
it.
hated it, and so then my friend was like, "What about her name is Dana? So what about she spells it Dayna? What about something with day in it?" So it was originally called Payday.
Oh,
The second one was going to be Day Job, and I thought Payday was really cute.
yeah.
more actually I owe you. And then when they were doing the cover for Hollywood Homicide, they had changed it to like this beautiful, just a shot of a, oh, I wish I had it with me, a shot of a woman, and but it didn't look very mystery, so they changed the title to Hollywood Homicide to make people realize it was a mystery. So that's why my title was that. And so, I mean, I could take or leave Hollywood Homicide, but I love the cover, so it was worth it to me. So yeah, I was surprised. The second book, Hollywood Ending, was my title, and it was not intended to just be a 2-book series. So I guess the joke was on me by naming it Hollywood Ending. It was the end of the last book in the series. And then I think the next one, my next book, I actually came up with the title, and it's actually gonna work. It's gonna be the title. So
It's what?
It's gonna be the title. The title I wanted.
And can you tell us what the title is?
I don't know if I can or not. I'm sorry. But out of my 4 books, I got 3 titles are mine, which is pretty cool.
That is, yeah, because you're so right. It's partly a marketing decision.
Yeah.
That's a good record.
Yeah.
So speaking of marketing decisions, I wanted to talk about your cover, which I also love, and I was just wondering what your involvement was with the design, and
So I gave them an 8-page single-spaced document with photos of covers I liked and covers I did not like. And I wanted it to be a selfie of Desiree, basically, looking like in a mirror selfie. And they obviously did not do that. But what I wanted to evoke, I wanted to evoke kind of like that this, like, as a kind of a glamorous book, that's a sexy book. It's, it's domestic suspense kind of, but it's not like a white woman in the suburbs. And so, that's what I wanted it to evoke. And so even though they didn't do what I wanted in terms of my suggestion, they still evoked what I wanted it to evoke. And I think it's probably better than what I would have thought it was going to be. Just like, you're like, what is going on here? Is that blood? What is this? And I know with the original one, I had told them I liked thick fonts. So they had done a thicker font and the glass wasn't broken. And so I actually was like, I don't like the font. So they changed the font and they broke the glass. I just think that really just made it pop. And then I think I had a choice between making it making this have blood on it or not. And I just wanted it to pop. And I think it really just pops in the picture. So it was definitely a collaboration. They definitely, they take if I suggest something, they definitely like consider it. And then, I have a cover for the next book too. And they really were taking my suggestions for that. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Great. And I see someone in the comments saying great cover. So I definitely.
Thank you, Barbara.
I mean, because it's beautiful. It's like aesthetically pleasing, but you also, like you said, you get a sense of something wrong there. So I think it's hitting all the boxes. So you said you're not ready to talk about titles yet, but can you tell us anything about what you're working on? Or
Yeah, for sure. I had the idea for this. Hi, Chris. When I had the idea for I was working on it. A friend invited me down to Baltimore for a writer's retreat. Oh my baby cousin's here. Hi Dexter. So I was at her 4-story row house and she was not in town. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is like, I'm on the 3rd floor bedroom. I could come downstairs and find a dead body. And I would have no clue how it got there. And her neighbors would be like, who's the black girl? How'd she kill somebody? Like, so that's the story. Is this black woman and her boyfriend comes to Jersey City. Hi, Peggy. New Jersey City, which is across the water from New York City. And she comes downstairs one day and her boyfriend is disappeared. And there's this missing white woman who's kind of been in the news, who's now dead in her foyer. And she has to figure out what happened.
Okay, so yeah, that sounds like a lot of the elements that we would say people love in your work. Like you've got that sort of personal mystery, but also the larger mystery going on. So
yeah, and I know you think about like the Gabby Petito case from last summer, fall. I was just so fascinated with like the social media element and the idea of like all these internet sleuths thinking that they could solve it, and they were, and so I have an element of that where I have a character in the book who is kind of like, she's like this makeup person who all of a sudden becomes obsessed with the case because the woman who was missing was a commoner. And so she kind of helps and hinders the case. Because I think with that, like they're not real investigators. So they might be like, oh, I saw him here and he definitely did it, So they're like they will share false information. I can remember with the Gabby Petito case, when they finally found the body of her boyfriend who had killed her, the police had to say, like, please let us investigate. Like, don't try to, like, come to the crime scene and do something, because people were that involved in it, you know? And so that's a thing. So
Yeah, and it brings in that element of true crime, I think, which, you know, I'm sure obviously a lot of people are interested in, but it goes to a whole nother level when you're trying to solve crimes yourself. So, oh, that sounds great. So do you have a anticipated pub date for that, or?
I'm still working on it. It's been a rough year.
Well, something to look forward to. So there's so many great books out this year, including yours. And I was wondering if what else you're reading right now, what you're excited about that's coming out.
I just pop out. I had Alex's book here because I'm using it as a book holder. But this is Secret Identity by Alex Garrett. It came out last week. Really good. It's literary mystery, and it takes place in the 70s about a queer Cuban American woman who wants to break to the comic industry. And then Gigi Pondian's book came out last week too, Under Lock and Skeleton Key. And if you know who Gigi, she's like this really amazing locked room impossible crime mystery writer. And so she has won awards for her short story. So this is actually, I don't know if it's her first attempt at doing a novel, but it's about a disgraced magician who comes back home to her family's business, which they do like they create secret rooms. They build secret rooms for people, and they're building a room, and they find a body in a wall that hasn't been opened in like 200 years or something like that, but the body's a fresh body.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's really good. So those are two that are out right now that you should definitely pick up. I'm excited for Amina Akhtar's Kismet, which comes out, I want to say August, and it's kind of skewers the wellness industry in Sedona, Arizona. It's a thriller, but it's also like very much like a fun thriller. So,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I just finished Alex's book, and yeah,
Oh, nice.
really hooked on the other two just from your description. So
Yeah.
great. Well, Kellye, thank you so much for your time tonight, for
Sure.
joining us for this first episode of The Craft of Crime Fiction, and I'm sure we'll all be looking for what you do next.
Any other questions? Anyone else have questions?
Yeah. If any, to drop one in the comments.
Wait a second. So you have a book coming out, right?
I do, yeah, summer 23, so it's going to be a little while, but yeah, it's called The Good Ones, coming out from Harper Books.
What's it about?
It is about a woman who disappears, and her best friend comes home and is sort of interested in looking into it, but also then gets involved with her friend's husband. So,
Ooh. So is it considered a thriller?
I think literary thriller crossover is.
Nice. Is this your debut?
I had a book come out from Scribner a while ago, but this is my crime fiction. So this is what I wanted to do.
The crime fiction community is like, we're a really cool, fun community.
I think that everyone's so nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. So I'm excited for you to join us. So
much.
All right. I don't think there's any questions. So everyone's just saying nice things to me.
Deserved.
What'd you say?
Well deserved. Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kellye. It's nice to take care.
Bye. Thank you for coming, family and friends.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.